We are live. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you all so much for joining this Saturday. We are going to start with our Vaishnava bhajans, and today we will sing Gopinath by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Since Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day is coming in July, so we will sing that bhajan today. Um, we will do song 1, and next week we can do song 2. Yeah. So please pull this bhajan up. I'm gonna post a link in the Zoom call. We'll do fast today because we are running little late. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Gopinath ki jai. Okay, so I'm going to quickly share the screen. Let's see who all are here. Hare Krishna, Kajal Mataji. Hare Krishna, Juhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I can't hear very well.
So let's share the screen. Anyone would like to start with the translation first? Just 1 second. Okay, this is much better. Okay, I'll start. O Gopinath, Lord of the Gopis, please hear my request. I am a wicked materialist, always addicted to worldly desires, and no good qualities do I possess. Anyone want to say the second?
Oh Gopinath, how will you purify me? I do not know what devotion is, and my materialistic mind is absorbed in fruitive work. I have fallen into this dark and perilous worldly existence.
Third, anyone on the call?
The fourth.
Oh Gopinath, how will you purify me? I do not know what what devotion is, and my materialistic mind is absorbed in fruitive work. I have fallen into this dark and perilous worldly existence.
Fourth, anyone? O Gopinath, everything here is your illusory energy. I have no strength or transcendental knowledge, and this body of mine is not independent and free from the control of material nature. Fifth,
O Gopinath, this sinner who is weeping and weeping begs for an eternal place at your divine feet. Please give him your mercy.
sixth, anyone?
Oh Gopinath, you are able to do anything, and therefore you have the power to deliver all sinners. Who is there that is more of
Oh Gopinath, you are the ocean of mercy, having come into this phenomenal world. You expand your divine pastimes for the sake of the fallen souls.
Last but not the least, number eight, anyone?
Oh Gopinath, I am so sinful that although all the demons attend your lotus feet, Bhaktivinoda has remained in worldly existence.
Hmm. Jai. So pretty powerful bhajan, right, to start the morning off with. Any reflections? Anyone on the call? Anyone would like to share anything? We have Hare Krishna, Divya Ananda Prabhu. Thank you for joining. We are just going through our Vaishnava bhajans, and we will start the class soon. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
So yes, we were going through this Gopinath bhajan today, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur disappearance day is coming soon. So we would read his bhajans, understand from his offerings to the Lord, and just see how the real humility he represented, right? I think we have quite a few, and we are already over age, so maybe we'll discuss this bhajan next week. We will do song number 2 next week, so we can discuss both of the songs together. But yeah, I would like to welcome Divya Ananda Prabhu from ISKCON of DC, and yeah, so this is our small sangha here on every Saturday, which we have for Srimad Bhagavatam systematic study, and we have been reading for last year or so, and we are on 7th chapter of first canto on 12th verse, as we discussed earlier on the messages. So, Kajal Mataji, are you there?
Yes, I am, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you, Divya Ananda Prabhu, for agreeing to speak. And, I just wanted to say a few words about him. Obviously, anything I say will not be enough to glorify him, but he is a fantastic book distributor in the DC metro area, which is Washington, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, where I used to live before. And he's just at the forefront of it, and he's been so positively aggressive with distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. He's a disciple of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and he is the Sankirtan leader for ISKCON DC. And he's also the forefront with the deity worship. He does the deity worship at the Potomac Temple, the ISKCON DC temple. He has 2 beautiful daughters and a beautiful wife, and he lives in Virginia. If I've missed out anything, please let me know.
Jai. Thank you, Kajal Mataji, for introducing and also inviting Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So it's our great honor
At
to.
a very short notice as well. I think I asked him on Wednesday, or even Thursday actually, and he agreed just instantly. So we're really grateful to him for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Please take it over from
Thank
here.
you. Thank you so much for having me here. I was really looking forward to this association, and I have listened to a few classes that you have on Saturday. I've not been able to join Zoom, but I was part of the YouTube. Like I was looking at it on the YouTube. So you have an amazing sangha here, and yeah, I'm excited to be here and excited to be part of this association. So thank you so much for inviting me here. So we can start with Jai Radha Madhav, and then we can go into the verses for today. You can hear me okay, right, Prabhu?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Guru Adhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Ramadhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we'll start with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nashtu Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langyata giram yat kripatam aham vande paramananda madhavam. Let me share my screen, Prabhu, so that I can share that verse. Can you all see my screen? So we'll start with the verse 12. So I know you all did verse 12 last time. You heard Srila Prabhupada. And so I thought we can again start with verse 12 because this is a start of a section. So we'll start with verse 12 and then we can maybe go up till verse 22 if time permits. But this is a very important section, so we'll start with verse 12. Parikshito tha rajarse janma karma vilapanam samstham cha pandu putranam vakshe krishna kathodayam. Parikshito tha rajarse janma karma vilapanam samstham cha pandu putranam vakshe krishna kathodayam. Parikshito tha rajarse janma karma vilapanam samstham cha pandu putranam vakshe krishna kathodayam. Anyone wants to recite the verse?
Parikshito tha rajarse janma karma vilapanam samstham cha panduputranam vakshe krishna kathodayam.
Anyone else wants to do it?
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षे जन्म कर्म विलापनम संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्णकथोदयम्.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So let's start with the translation. Suta Goswami thus addressed the rishis, headed by Shaunaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of the Lord Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna, and topics of the birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit, the sage amongst kings, as well as topics of renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that he personally incarnates himself amongst the different kinds of living entities and takes part with them in daily activities. Any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord is to be understood as a transcendental narration of the Lord. Without Krishna, all the supplementary literatures like the Puranas and Mahabharata are simply stories or historical facts. But with Krishna, they become transcendental. And when we hear of them, we at once become transcendently related with the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is also a Purana. But the special significance of this Purana is that the activities of the Lord are central and not just supplementary historical facts. Srimad Bhagavatam is thus recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the spotless Purana. There is a class of less intelligent devotees of the Bhagavad Purana who desire to relish at once the activities of the Lord narrated in the 10th canto without first understanding the primary cantos. They are under the false impression that the other cantos are not concerned with Krishna, and thus more foolishly than intelligently they take to the reading of the 10th canto. These readers are specifically told herein that other cantos of the Bhagavatam are as important as the 10th canto. No one should try to go into the matters of the 10th canto without having thoroughly understood the purport of the other 9 cantos. Krishna and his pure devotees, like the Pandavas, are on the same plane. Krishna is not without his devotees of all the rasas. Krishna is not without his devotees of all the rasas, and the pure devotees, like the Pandavas, are not without Krishna. The devotees and the Lord are interlinked, and they cannot be separated. Therefore, talks about them are all Krishna Katha, or topics of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Kuve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrubhasya Kripa Sindhu Bhavevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So in this section, in this chapter, the son of Drona punished. That's the name of the chapter. And But this chapter is divided into many different sections. And the first 7 verses of this chapter are basically the Vyasadev's meditation and samadhi. So in the previous chapter, we all read that Narad Muni instructed Vyasadev to glorify Krishna. And because he's written all the Vedas, but he's not satisfied. So Narad Muni recommended Vyasadeva you should glorify Krishna and write Srimad Bhagavatam. So Vyasadeva meditated and he fixed himself in devotional service. And then he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, glorifying Krishna. And he taught Srimad Bhagavatam to his son, Sukadev Goswami, the great devotee of the Lord. So that's the first 7 verses is the meditation and samadhi for Vyasadeva. And the next 8 to 11 is when Vyasadeva is teaching Srimad Bhagavatam to his son, Sukadev Goswami. And in the verses 8 to 11, we all read of the verse, the Atma Rama verse, that described that even the most liberated personalities get attracted to devotional service. So that is the Atma Rama verse, a very famous verse that even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu repeated that verse to Sanatan Goswami and Sarvabhuma Bhattacharya. So that is the Atma Rama verse. And then in the next section, which we are starting now, is the verses 12 to 40 that describes that Arjun captures Ashwatthama. And this is when the story basically begins, right? So Krishna is saying, the sages are saying, please speak about the topics of Krishna. So please speak about Krishna Katha. So in this section, this is the first place in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam where the pastimes of Krishna are directly described. So far in the first 6 chapters, we knew about Krishna. We read about like the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is described as Satya Param Dhimahi, right? A very important verse, where even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he gave a lecture on that verse for like a month. For a full 1 month, he gave a lecture on that. And then also we read in the 2nd chapter about the Parodharma. What is the Paradharma, right? It's about devotional service. It's about devotional service. So we read about that in 2nd chapter. So all the first 6 chapters were kind of preparing ourselves for this moment of introducing Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is the important aspect of this section, is because this is the first time Krishna is going to appear in Srimad Bhagavatam. So how does Krishna appear in Srimad Bhagavatam is a question that sages asked initially in the 4th chapter. So sages were asking about the appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they were also asking about the appearance of Parikshit Maharaj, right? And how did Bhagavatam was spoken by Vyasadeva to Sukadev Goswami. And we all know that Sukadev Goswami, when he was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, that in that assembly, Suta Goswami was there. And now Sita Goswami is reciting the Bhagavatam to all the sages of Naimisharanya. So that is the important topic that we're going to discuss today. So how does Krishna appear in Srimad Bhagavatam? Krishna appears through serving his devotees. That is how Krishna appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. And we'll read the verse where how Krishna appears. And the appearance of Krishna is as a service to his devotees. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's appearing in Srimad Bhagavatam doing as a service to his devotees. So Krishna wants to serve his devotees. He has no obligation. He's the Supreme Lord, but he wants to serve his devotees. He's never separated from his devotees. So in this specific verse, there is a very important word used. And today, a lot of these verses that we will read, we'll see some really important words used in Srimad Bhagavatam. In this verse, especially, there's a word used, Krishna Katha Udayam. It says Vakshe Krishna Kathodayam. So this specific, the meaning of this is that which gives rise to the transcendental narration of Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. So whenever the devotees come together, like you have a beautiful Sangha in Columbus, Ohio, when all the devotees come together, whether for a Bhakti Vriksha, whether for a program or any other discussion, what happens? Krishna Katha rises. Krishna Katha comes up, right? So that is the one, that is called association. That is a good association. A good association is one when Krishna Katha rises. Krishna, Vakshe Krishna Katha Udayam. So Suta Goswami is also thus addressing the rishis and saying, now I shall begin the narration of Lord Shri Krishna. It's such an important verse of now the story of, or the pastimes of Krishna will begin, right? So that the association gives rise to the Krishna Katha. So another point mentioned in this verse is that the topics of the Pandus, like the sons of Pandu, all the Pandavas, description of all the Pandavas and their story is also that Suta Goswami will describe, but not in these verses, though that will come later in Srimad Bhagavatam. But he is describing that I will do the transcendental narration of Lord Krishna and also will explain the topics of renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. So how do we approach Krishna? So Krishna is now coming up on the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's also described that the first and second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam are like the lotus feet of Krishna. So we have to approach Krishna, and whenever we also learn something from this is whenever we take darshan of the Lord, the first thing we do is we look at the lotus feet of Krishna. And that's how we start. We look at the lotus feet of the Krishna, and that's how we go up and up to the eyes of Krishna, the head of Krishna. So it's very important. And Srila Prabhupada describes in this verse, similarly, like if you look at first and second canto as the lotus feet of Krishna, the 10th canto is like the smiling face of Krishna. And so how do we approach even Srimad Bhagavatam as described by Srila Prabhupada, that we should approach Srimad Bhagavatam by starting from the first canto all the way to the 9 cantos, first understand those 9 cantos, and then go into the 10th canto and the descriptions of the Lord. But we should not think, as Srila Prabhupada describes, that anything that we have done till 9 cantos is not Krishna Katha. Everything that is described either for the devotees of the Lord or either about the Lord is all Krishna Katha. So Srila Prabhupada is stressing that point here, is that we should be careful and not just pick Bhagavatam on the 10th canto directly. We should read the first 9 cantos. Right? And also Srila Prabhupada describes the devotees and the Lord are interlinked and they cannot be separated. Therefore, talks about them are all Krishna Katha or topics of the Lord. So we know in the 7th canto, for example, the Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Narasimha pastimes are there. And there's so many chapters dedicated to Prahlad Maharaj. He's a devotee of the Lord. He's one of the Mahajans. And there's so many chapters dedicated to him. This is because the devotee of the Lord is linked with the Lord. So, and even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates used to read about Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj and again. And hundreds of times they read the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj. So that's how we approach Srimad Bhagavatam, is by starting with the first canto and all the way to the 9 cantos. So now we'll go to the verse 13 and 14. In the verse 13 and 14 is described, translation, when the respective warriors of both camps, namely the Kauravas and Pandavas, were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the dead warriors obtained their deserved destinations, and when the son of Dhritarashtra fell down lamenting, his spine broken, being beaten by the club of Bhimsen, the son of Dronacharya, Ashwathama beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi and delivered the heads as a prize to his master, foolishly thinking that he would be pleased. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act, and he was not pleased in the least. So what's happening is, this is after the Kurukshetra war. And Ashwathama, he the son of Dronacharya. And he was fighting the Kurukshetra war on the side of Duryodhana. And to please Duryodhana, what he did was, he killed the 5 sons of Pandavas. And when he killed those 5 sons of Pandavas, he actually, before killing the 5 sons of Pandavas, Duryodhana had no idea that he was going and going to he will kill the 5 sons of Pandavas. But he shared his plan with Kripacharya. So when he shared his plan with Kripacharya, Kripacharya also did not approve of his killing of the 5 sons. So, but he still went ahead and killed the 5 sons of Pandavas. And when he killed those 5 sons, he brought them to Duryodhana, because Duryodhana was about to die. So before Duryodhana dies, he wanted to please Duryodhana. And he showed the 5 skulls there to Duryodhana. And Duryodhana said, "Oh, you brought 5 Pandavas for me? You killed all 5 Pandavas?" And so what Duryodhana did to test it is put his hand on the skull. And he noticed that the skull is very soft. And then he realized, no, these are not Pandavas. These are the sons of Pandavas. So he said, "You fool, you killed the sons of Pandavas." Even Duryodhana said that this is the most heinous act that you did. Think about it. Even Duryodhana is saying that this is the most heinous act that you did. So, but Ashwathama wanted to please Duryodhana. So it is described in the Shastra that if a principle of a Kshatriya is that he never attacks someone who's sleeping, someone who is falling on the feet, someone who's crying, someone who does not have any weapons. So a Kshatriya should not attack that person. These are some of the criteria for the Kshatriya. But Ashwathama really broke all that criteria, and he killed the sons of Pandavas. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada actually further describes the importance of Krishna Katha. And he says, both Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are transcendental topics of Lord Krishna. The Gita is Krishna Katha, or topics of Krishna, because it is spoken by the Lord. And the Bhagavatam is also Krishna Katha, because it is spoken about the Lord. So, now, I know you, ISKCON Columbus and all the devotees here, you do book distribution. So generally what I have seen is when we call people or we talk to people on the streets, and even if you're talking to Indians, we say, we want to present you Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And generally they will come back and say, yeah, I have Srimad Bhagavatam at home. And then we say, no, we're not talking about Bhagavad Gita, we're talking about Srimad Bhagavatam. And then they would say, oh, isn't Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam the same? And then the first thing we say is, no, Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord Krishna, spoken by Lord Krishna, and Bhagavatam is about Lord Krishna. So everything that we use, whether we do any kind of service, and even book distribution, everything comes from Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas. We just have to repeat what they've already given us. And by just that one line, they're able to understand. And then we can go deeper into what Bhagavatam is all about, depending on who you're talking to. Srila Prabhupada also describes in the purport, he says, Lord Chaitanya desired that all who are born in India, I think most of us are born in India here, right? So all who are born in India seriously understand such Krishna Kathas, and then after full realization, preach the transcendental message to everyone in all parts of the world. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity of the stricken world. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they are asking us to preach Krishna Katha, to give Krishna Katha to others as well. And one way to give Krishna Katha is by giving your association to others. Like we read in the previous verse, Krishna Katha Udayam, Vakshe Krishna Katha Udayam. So when we give association, then Krishna Katha rises. When you give a book to someone, when you do book distribution, Krishna Katha rises. So everything is glorifying Krishna. Everything is about Krishna. Everything is about the pastimes of Krishna. So now we go to verse 15. In the verse 15 says the translation, Draupadi, the mother of the 5 children of the Pandavas, after hearing the massacre of her sons, began to cry in distress with eyes full of tears. Trying to pacify her in her great loss, Arjun spoke to her thus, O gentle lady, when I present you with the head of that Brahmana, after beheading him with arrows from my Gandiva bow, I shall then wipe the tears from your eyes and pacify you. Then, after burning your sons' bodies, you can take your bath standing on his head. So Draupadi was very, very unhappy when she heard that her sons were killed. Right? She was suffering. Then the question comes, do devotees suffer? Are there sufferings for devotees? I mean, Draupadi was the devotee of the Lord. She was even called Krishna. Draupadi's other name was Krishna. So, do devotees suffer? Srila Prabhupada explains that there is no suffering for devotees. There is no suffering for devotees. Then how come Draupadi was crying? How come we see suffering sometimes? Right? It goes back to the verse that you all were discussing last week, right? Tattenu kampa susuvukshamanu, right? That the suffering is there, but devotees know how to deal with suffering, right? A devotee thinks that whatever this situation could have been worse, but Krishna reduced it. Krishna actually reduced the situation now, and that's the mercy of Krishna. So in any situation, a devotee thinks that this is the mercy of Krishna, even though the sufferings are there. Can we even imagine, can we even compare our sufferings with the sufferings of Pandavas? Pandavas were the great devotees of the Lord, and they suffered so much, right? And that is so a devotee always thinks that this is the mercy of the Lord. You know, a devotee, I was listening to one lecture and he gave a great example. He said that a devotee is like, all devotees are like, they have Mercedes, right? Mercedes-Benz. Because a devotee means that when the speed breaker comes, when there is a Mercedes, they can easily absorb the shock. So they have really good shock absorbers. So their ride is smooth. So not that they don't get speed breakers, they do get speed breakers, but they can easily cross those speed breakers. So every devotee is like they have a Mercedes. So it's just amazing. It's a smooth ride, even though there are speed breakers. So that's how we can understand. When we become a devotee, when we come to Krishna consciousness, Krishna gives us that intelligence of how to deal with the situation. And then we have association of devotees. The biggest thing is that association of devotees that we can rely on, that we can get guidance from. So from our seniors, from our acharyas, from our guru, right? And Arjun is now trying to pacify Draupadi, right? Although Ashwathama was the son of a Brahmana, Dronacharya is a Brahmana. He was a Brahmana, and then Ashwathama is the son of a Brahmana. But because he did that, he killed the 5 sons of Pandavas, he's considered as an aggressor. So Srila Prabhupada in this purport explains all these different types of aggressors who need to be there. They need to be killed. There is no other punishment but to kill the aggressors, even though they may be the sons of a Brahmana, right? An enemy who sets fire to the house, administers poison, attacks all of a sudden with deadly weapons, plunders wealth or usurps agricultural fields, or entices one's wife is called an aggressor. So even Srila Prabhupada describes this in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. These are all the aggressors, and these aggressors need to be killed. So when Arjun was saying, I don't want to fight, so Krishna was trying to explain to him that these are all the aggressors. They took all your land, right? They did so much. They even administered poison to Pandavas. So these aggressors will need to be killed. Even though Ashwathama is a son of a Brahmana, but still, because he's an aggressor, he should be killed. And that's what Arjun said to Draupadi. In verse 17, translation is Arjun, who is guided by the infallible Lord as friend and driver, thus satisfied the dear lady by such statements. Then he dressed in armor and armed himself with furious weapons, and getting into his chariot, he set out to follow Ashwathama, the son of his martial teacher. So there is no purport to this verse, but this is a very important verse. Why? Because it describes this word that says Achyuta Mitra Suta, Arjun, who is guided by the infallible Lord as a friend and driver. This is the entry of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. How is Krishna entering Srimad Bhagavatam? As a driver of Arjun. So I think most of you have maybe come across Bollywood movies, right? So what happens in a Bollywood movie when a hero enters? And there's always an amazing entry for the hero, because they have to make sure that we can all love the hero, right? And I remember when I was growing up, there was one hero who came on like two bikes, one leg on one bike and one leg on the other bike. I'm sure some of you can understand who I'm talking about, right? That's how a hero enters a Bollywood movie, right? And then what about our hero, Krishna? Krishna is our hero. And how is he entering into Srimad Bhagavatam? As a servant of his devotees. That's what Krishna is. He's serving his devotees as a driver, as a charioteer. There's a story I heard from Radhesham Prabhu. He said there was one time there was a program where Sachinandan Maharaj was there, and he was invited on the podium, and then there was one MC who was reading out the qualification, like he was reading out not the qualification, but he was glorifying Sachinandan Maharaj. And he was reading from a list of things about Sachinandan Maharaj and going one by one. And when that ended, Sachinandan Maharaj said, "You forgot one thing." And he was thinking, "Oh, what did I forgot? Did I forgot something, a service or something?" And then Maharaj said, "You forgot that my only qualification is that I am the servant of the devotees. I am the servant of the devotees." That is the biggest qualification. And so similarly, Krishna is known as in relation with his devotees. Krishna is always known as his relation with his devotees. So that is a beautiful story there. Also, if we look at Damodar Ashtakam, right? What is the first paragraph of Damodar Ashtakam? It says, Namamishwaram Sachit Ananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashoda Biyolu Kaladavamanam Paramrishtamatyantato Drutya Gopya. Namam Ishwaram. So he is the Supreme Lord, Ishwaram. He is Sachit Ananda Rupam. So he's the Sachit Ananda Rupam. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Rupam. Right? He has a supreme, he's a transcendental form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So there's a verse from Brahma Samhita. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigra Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. And then the entry of Krishna, Lasad Kundalam Gokule Brajamana. So he's the one with the beautiful earrings, right? Moving around. And he's a baby. He has beautiful earrings moving around. That's the entry of Krishna. Right? That's the entry. He's a supreme Lord, but he's a baby, but he's a supreme Lord. And Gokule Brajamana, he's from Gokul. And Yashoda, Mother Yashoda is running behind him with a stick. And that is the entry of Krishna. So Krishna, again, he's come in with the relationship with Mother Yashoda. Not on his own, not on a single person coming to the picture, but only in relation to the devotees. So Krishna, here the Lord is described as Satchitananda Rupam. So this is, someone may think that, is this natural for Krishna? He is Supreme Lord. Is it more like he may, let me just do this for my devotees? Like sometimes it's intentional. Okay, Krishna may think he's a Supreme Lord, and let me just do this for my devotees. So that everyone will think, yes, I have a relationship with this devotee. No. The answer is, this is very natural for Krishna. This is very, very natural for Krishna. So there is a beautiful way to understand this. Is there are three things we need to understand. One is, there is knowledge, which is knowing something. The second thing is, you do. So when you have some skills, you do something. And some of you maybe work in IT, right? So you gain something from knowledge, and then you apply your skills, which is you do something. But then there is a third element, which is called being. So knowing, doing, and being. And let's take an example. Let's take an example of humility. So we all have some definition of humility, right? We understand humility, knowing, that is knowing about humility. And the second thing is doing. So for example, if someone goes into a lecture, starts a class and say, Prabhu, I'm not qualified to give the class, and so and so. So that's like saying, showing his humility by doing something, right? The third thing is being actually humble, being humble. So Krishna, in that relation, Krishna is naturally attracted towards his devotees. He's naturally has relationship with his devotees. He's naturally serving his devotees. So how wonderful the devotees are. Think about it, right? So how wonderful are the devotees when Krishna is serving those devotees. So Krishna is naturally inclined towards his devotees. He's not faking it. He's not intentionally doing it. He just loves his devotees. And another example is when Bhima, he killed Jarasandh, right? So when he killed Jarasandh, and Arjun was also there, Krishna was there, and Bhima was there. When they came back, then Krishna asked Bhima to come out of the chariot first. And then everyone glorified Bhima, Jai Bhima, Jai Bhima, right? Everyone was glorifying Bhima. And then he said, Arjun, you go second. And then he came last. So what is Krishna doing? Krishna is glorifying his devotees. Krishna himself does not want that glorification. He is glorifying his devotees. So there is a verse in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 11:33, and I have it opened up here. There's a beautiful word used here. It's called Nimitta Matram Bhava Savya Sachin. So the verse is, therefore, get up. Krishna is saying, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Nimitta Matram means an instrument, just the cause, instrument on the fight. So what is Krishna doing? Krishna is saying to Arjun, I have already killed all these people. All you have to do is just be an instrument. So that is what Krishna giving all credit to Arjun. Similarly, Krishna does that. Krishna gives all credit to his devotees. He gives all credit to his devotees, right? He just wants us to be the instrument. So an example is when we go out for book distribution, right? Sometimes we are trying to convince someone, or we're talking to someone, we are giving them a book, and we are not able to connect well. That person doesn't take the book. But then there are times when we are able to connect so well with this other person, there is a heart-to-heart connection, right? You're speaking so well, that person is understanding so well. So the words are just coming out of your mouth, and you're repeating what Srila Prabhupada has given us, Acharyas have given us, and that other person is able to relate to it. That he takes the book, he goes back, he comes to the temple, he starts chanting, and he becomes a devotee. And then we can say, oh, yeah, I made this person a devotee. Right? But who's doing it? Krishna is doing it. What are we? We are an nimitta matram. We are an instrument. And Similarly, how we came to Krishna consciousness, right? Someone gave us the book, someone actually gave their association to us. So this is all done by Krishna, but he's giving us the credit. He's saying, yes, I did thousands of books. We can say that, but who's actual doer is Krishna. He's the one who's supplying everything, right? He's the one, even Kurukshetra war, he was the brain behind everything, right? Even the Jarasandh incident, he's the one who told Jarasandh, he's the one who told Bhima how to kill Jarasandh, but he gave credit to Bhima. So that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Krishna is doing everything. He's the one giving intelligence to all of us. So it is described in the 10th chapter, Tesham Satada Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvikam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upyantite. So Dadami Buddhi Yogam, he's the one who gives us intelligence of how to come to him or any kind of service that we do. Right? So that is why he's Achyuta Mitra Sutta. He's described as Achyuta Mitra Sutta. So entry of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the verse 18, it is described, Ashwathama, the murderer of the princess, seeing from a great distance Arjuna coming at him with great speed, fled in his chariot, panic-stricken, just to save his life, as Brahma fled in fear from Shiva. So in this one, there is a Puranic story described where Brahma, who once became allured by his daughter and began to follow her, which infuriated Shiva, who attacked Brahma with his trident, Brahmaji fled in fear of his life. So an example is given. Also another story from Vaman Purana, there was a demon by the name Vidyunmali, who was gifted with a glowing golden airplane, which traveled to the back of the sun, and night disappeared because of the glowing effulgence of this plane. Thus the sun god became angry, and with his virulent rays, he melted the plane. This enraged Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva then attacked the sun god, who fled away and at last fell down at Kashi, Varanasi, and the place became famous as Lolarka. So you can actually Google Lolarka and you can see that place. So Ashwathama is the murderer, right? He saw that Arjun is coming and he started running. In the next verse, when the son of the Brahmana Ashwathama saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside of his using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra, nuclear weapon. So Ashwathama is now ready to use nuclear weapon. But here's the problem. He does not know how to retract the nuclear weapon. He knows how to send the nuclear weapon. So he does not have the full knowledge of that nuclear weapon. So what he does is, since his life was in danger, he touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon chanting of the hymns for throwing the nuclear weapon, although he did not know how to withdraw such weapons. So that is, again, in a Kshatriya rule, like that's a big problem. You need to know, your weapon. So if he was throwing the weapon, even though he did not know how to withdraw such weapon, that shows the asuric mentality of Ashwathama. And which mode does it represent? The mode of ignorance, right? So this is a mode of ignorance, because he wants to save himself. He wants to kill even the others, because a nuclear weapon would kill a lot of other people. So just to save himself, he is doing this. So that is what we understand from this verse. And in 21, is saying, thereupon a glaring light spread in all directions. It was so fierce that Arjun thought his own life in danger, and so he began to address Lord Shri Krishna. So Ashwathama is scared now. He has used his nuclear weapon. And Arjun also has a nuclear weapon. He also has a Brahmastra. He knows how to retract it, but he does not know how to counteract the Brahmastra, another Brahmastra, which is thrown by Ashwathama. So who does he reach out to? He reaches out to the Supreme Lord, Krishna. And now this is a very important verse, and we'll do the Sanskrit and translation of this verse. And now Arjun is calling out the name of Krishna. He's saying, he says, Arjun Uvacha, Krishna Krishna Mahabaho, Bhakta Nama Bhayankara, Tvam Eko Dahi Maya Mananam, Apavargosi Samshrite. Says, translation, Arjun said, "O my Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna, you are the almighty personality of Godhead. There is no limit to your different energies. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find the path of liberation in you only." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Arjun was aware of the transcendental qualities of Lord Sri Krishna, as he had already experienced them during the Kurukshetra war, in which both of them were present. Therefore, Arjun's version of Lord Krishna is authoritative. Krishna is almighty and is especially the cause of fearlessness for the devotees. A devotee of the Lord is always fearless because of the protection given by the Lord. Material existence is something like a blazing fire in the forest, which can be extinguished by the mercy of the Lord Sri Krishna. The spiritual master is the mercy representative of the Lord. Therefore, a person burning in the flames of material existence may receive the rains of mercy of the Lord through the transparent medium of the self-realized spiritual master. The spiritual master, by his words, can penetrate into the hearts of the suffering person and inject knowledge transcendental, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. It's a beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. So what is Arjun doing? He's calling out Krishna. He's saying, Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaho. It's amazing that if you search Krishna, Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many places where devotees have called out Krishna like that. Krishna, Krishna. 2 times they called out the name Krishna, Krishna. So when Indra was throwing all that rain, and then the Vrindavan verses, they all went to Krishna and they said, Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhago, right? And then also when the cowherd boys, they were in that, surrounded by that forest fire. So they also called Krishna, Krishna, Mahavira. When Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they were liberated by the Lord, they said this exact same thing, Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaho. So they all called out the name of Krishna like that. And it's a beautiful thing. You can all call out in our own time. You can just say, Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaho. Right? And Srila Prabhupada, in his lecture, he describes especially this thing, which is samsrite. Samsrite is in the midst of material miseries. And how is it described in the translation is the flames of material miseries. These are the flames of material miseries. So this material world is full of miseries, full of sufferings. Anyone remember the first line, the first paragraph of the Mangala Arati that we do, right? Samsara dava nalalida loka pranaya karunya ghana ghanatvam prapase kalyana gunarnavasya vande guru shri charanarvindam. So this samsara dava nalalida loka, right? So this material world is like a fire. And it can only be extinguished. It can only be extinguished by the mercy of the spiritual master, by mercy of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada describes in his lecture that material world means continuous suffering. He said continuous suffering, right? Sometimes we don't even know it. Sometimes we think that we are happy in this material world, but we are suffering. And Srila Prabhupada describes that when a child is born, the mother is suffering in pain, right? When the child is born, he's crying, he's also in suffering. When he grows up, he's also suffering. When he becomes old, then he's suffering. And the death is also suffering. So there is a continuous suffering throughout our life. But what is the only solution? What is the only solution? Is calling out the name of Krishna. Is calling out Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaho, right? And what do? We do chanting. We're chanting the holy names of the Krishna. That is how we can remove all the sufferings of this material world, is by calling out the name of Krishna. And that is what Arjun is doing here. The next few verses are Arjun's prayers to Krishna. Arjun already knew the Krishna's position. In the 10th chapter, 12th verse of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun says, Para Dharma, he's the supreme dharma, right? He's the supreme personality of Godhead. And he is Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Bhubam, right? So Arjun already knows that he is the supreme personality of Godhead. And he's describing him as that. He's reaching out to it. So that's what we can do in our sufferings, in our problems. What we can do is we can call out the name of Krishna. We can approach Krishna. And that is the first thing we do. That doesn't mean that we don't act on anything. We still have to do the action. We still have to do something. But we are calling out the name of Krishna. Even in the case of Draupadi, if you think that the Draupadi, when she was in trouble, she was relying on her power to control everything, but she was not able to do it. But in the end, when she called out the Krishna's name, then Krishna appeared and helped her in that assembly. So we can all call out the name of Krishna and approach Krishna, and that will help us remove all the suffering. Or at least we will be riding in a Mercedes with with a very smooth ride, even though there will be a lot of sufferings coming to us. So I will end here. And the one important thing here in this verse before I end is is the last line where it says, the spiritual master by his words can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person and inject transcendental knowledge, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. So it's a spiritual master who gives us that knowledge. He's the representative of the Lord, and he gives us that knowledge. And with that knowledge, we can get rid of all the miseries of the Lord, and we become fearless. That fearlessness comes by the process of surrender to the Lord. So I will conclude here and see if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, reflections, any corrections also to what I've said. Thank you again for having me here, and with your association, I really enjoyed this. So,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Divya Ananda Prabhu, for this mind-blowing session. You covered, there were 8 verses total.
10 verses.
10 verses total, and you covered them in such a way that I feel like I didn't even miss one, because there are so many verses, but you've connected them so nicely, explained them very wonderfully. So thank you so much. Really helpful. So devotees, if anyone would like to ask any questions or any discussions, any reflections, please feel free to unmute yourself and you can share with Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'm Shrestha here.
Hare Krishna.
I had a question. Thank you so much for this wonderful, enlightening class this morning. It was very useful to understand the story and the glorification of devotees. I had a question. So when Draupadi was grieving because her 5 sons were killed by Ashwatthama, and then Arjuna, to pacify her, said that he would take revenge and bring his head. So when I think about it in our times, in our Kali Yuga time right now, I wanted to know how we should understand that instruction to apply in our lives in Kali Yuga. So Srila Prabhupada says that whoever is an aggressor should not be left to continue his aggression. In fact, they should be killed. So something happens if during this Kali Yuga time, especially during now, since COVID is going on and many other things are happening, something bad happens to a devotee and it's been done by an aggressor. Like if someone just comes to the temple and starts beating up the devotees. In such a situation, are we supposed to be as humble as and tolerant as grass? Or are we supposed to actually beat them up and take revenge? So that was my question. And especially during this Kali Yuga time, where none of us are Kshatriyas.
Yeah. No, thank you, Mataji, for bringing that question. So what we have to do is we have to be practical. This right now we are living in Kali Yuga. We are not at a time when there were Kshatriyas and Shudras and Vaishyas and Brahmanas. Right now, Srila Prabhupada describes everyone as a Shudra. Right? So when something like this happens, we have to be practical. Not that we have to protect the devotee, for sure. We have to make sure that the devotee, if someone is beating a devotee, we have to protect. That's our responsibility. Krishna is inside all of us, right? And he's a devotee. So we have to protect the devotee. But practically, we cannot be like how this is described for a Kshatriya. We are not a Kshatriya. We are not right now, the Kshatriyas can be compared like a soldier. So when a soldier, an example that Srila Prabhupada gives many times, like when a soldier kills someone in the battlefield, he is given a medal. But when a same Kshatriya comes back home and he kills his neighbor, he's sent to the jail. Right? So there is no way we can, from practical standpoint, we can also kill. That does not give us, we have to follow the rules and regulations. And as a devotee, we have to set the right example. We have to protect that devotee, but we shouldn't be going into violence in any way. So that's how I understand it. I'm sure there are other devotees who would like to answer that as well. But practically, we should not go into violence at all. Give protection to the devotees, and at the same time, just follow the rules and regulations, report to the authorities, and follow that process, and try to make sure that situation doesn't happen again. Yeah, and Alak Prabhu is mentioning the controlling anger, nectar of instruction. Yes. So
But
we have to control our anger for sure.
But aren't we supposed like the authentic way of channeling our anger is to go, blaspheme those who are blaspheming devotees?
Yes, so we have to be careful again, because we as devotees, we are associated with Krishna. So we have to set the right example for others. Yes, there could be people blaspheming you as a devotee, but we have to keep distance from them. So, and that's what's, even if you look at what is described for Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. A Kanishta Adhikari is at the lower level, but he thinks that only the Lord is in the temple. A Madhyama Adhikari is the one who's preaching. He's going out and preaching everyone, but he's staying away from all the envious people. So that's what we have to do. We have to stay away from people who are blaspheming the Lord. Yes, we should not allow that. If we are pakka, if we are good with the Shastra, we should respond with that. We should respond with Shastra, not with violence. If we can have a debate with them, fight with them in that way, yes, perfect. But if we are not very good with that Shastra, so we should stay humble, we should avoid the association of those who are blaspheming. And then we move on. And Uttama Adhikari is one who can fight with anyone. He's perfect with Shastra. He can have a debate with anyone. You can see even in ISKCON, there are a lot of Maharaj who had like a debate with these impersonalists. Right? And that is the right way to defeat someone. Not with violence, but by those. Because our Shastra, what Acharyas have given us, is so beautiful. All we have to do is repeat. But there is an art of repeating that information as well. And once we are ready, then we can do it. Till then, we should avoid associating with people who are blaspheming the Lord, blaspheming the devotees. It is described in Nectar of Devotion, actually, that if you are able to hear that blasphemy of the devotees, then either you defeat that person right there or you leave. And if you cannot do both, then you should kill yourself. That's what Nectar of Devotion, again, this is, we need to understand it properly, right? So but Nectar of Devotion describes that. So if someone blasphemes the Lord, either you should leave or stand there and defeat that person through Shastra.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Jai, thank you so much, Prabhu. So anyone else have any questions or any comments on today's topic?
Yes, Prabhu, I had one question.
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to ask, Divya Ananda Prabhu had mentioned that we, I guess, how do we when we think about material suffering, this world is full of material suffering, but then, how do we stop ourselves being negative, right? Because it's very easy to say, yes, this whole world is full of material suffering, but then, you kind of get a negative attitude towards people who are not in Krishna consciousness, and, you just become negative. So how do you prevent that from happening?
Yeah, thank you, Mataji, for the question. So as a devotee, as we are, what we have to develop is the mood of para dukha dukhi, right? So we, like, for example, right now, there's so much of misery in the whole world. People are suffering from COVID. People are in general suffering a lot. And then also we see people who are in the mode of ignorance. So once we have this knowledge, like, and there could be many examples here. One example is someone who is just suffering. If someone is just suffering at the material level, our responsibility as a devotee is to bring them to Krishna, is to show them the path to Krishna. And that is the best welfare activity that we can do. Yes, initially we may have some negativity getting developed inside us that, oh, why this person is doing that, why? But we should be merciful, as described in the scriptures also, that we should be merciful to those people, non-devotees, who are going in a different direction, and somehow or other figure out a way to bring them closer to Krishna. And so that's why a devotee is always thinking of the welfare. And that's Srila Prabhupada, that's why we do book distribution, is we see, like, what did Lord Nityananda did, right? He reached out to Jagai and Madai. They are the most sinful people, right? He could have said, they are very sinful, we will not approach them at all. But he still approached them. He gave his mercy, right? And Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, they gave their mercy to Jagai and Madai, and they became great devotees of the Lord. So that's how, with that vision, we should think of those people who are committing either sins, who are either suffering. If they are suffering, we help them, give them knowledge. If they are committing sins, we again help them by giving them knowledge, by giving them books. And if we develop that kind of mood, then we are a true representative of Srila Prabhupada. We are a true representative of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us by his example. Not sure if I answered your question, Mataji, but that's how I understand that we should.
Yeah. Yes, you did. Thank you very much. And actually, that provides a good segue into book distribution, because I know you're a pioneer in book distribution. So maybe you can offer us some, after the questions, if anyone else has questions, they can ask you, but maybe you can offer us some tips and tricks into your brilliant book distribution. I mean, I know you've had so much success in the Washington, D.C. area, which is huge. So we would love to learn more about that.
Yeah, no, I'm inspired by all the book distribution you all are doing. I was even listening to that program that Hari Prabhu and you all organized for book distribution, the results for book distribution. We in Washington, D.C. area, we do book distribution. Our temple is we have like a lot of different groups in the temple. And really for the book distribution, one of the key things we do is we try to go to a lot of events that are in this area. And we've been doing it for the last couple of years. And I think that is one of the best ways to be out there, to be with people so that they can relate to you and say, if you are attending some of those key events, then people coming out there and say, yeah, ISKCON Columbus is there, and they have some books, and the next year they see you again, the next year they see you again. So that is one way to always look for events in your area and try to attend those events and with your books and everything. There's also a social media channel that and you all have seen how Vaisheshika Maharaj is using social media and other digital platforms to actually reach out to more people. Nowadays, I know it's very difficult to go out in person. And I mean, things are getting better now, but for a while, we've not been able to go out. Our team has not done door-to-door distribution in a while, actually. And in last year in 2019, we did a lot of Bhagavatams just by doing door-to-door distribution. And so now we are calling people, and with the process of calling people is somewhat tricky. It's almost like you're doing a sales job. You're cold calling. Sometimes you're cold calling, but what you all can do, which has worked for us and also for all the other temples, and again we follow the other temples, ISKCON Silicon Valley and all. We are inspired by them and follow their principles. So you all must have been part of those sessions that Vaisheshika Maharaj conducts, where we can see all the devotees, they are following this process. And so they are doing the calling parties. So calling parties is very successful. Now, sometimes it's a challenge, practical way. I mean, ISKCON Silicon Valley has a lot of devotees. They come out and come on a calling party and able to do book distribution. But sometimes it's challenge, but everyone can do this from their home. You don't have to come on a call and do it. You can just pick up your cell phone, and you are part of many WhatsApp groups. You're part of many Facebook groups. So you can just search for numbers there and just call people. And then if one or two people are calling, they can, after talking to a few people, they can build a script. That script can then be shared with other devotees, and then they can follow that script. So if someone is hesitating to call, because it's not easy to just call right away and do cold calling. But if they have a script to read from, then they can read that script, and slowly they can come up to speed, and then they can do more books. So that is one method that has worked. Is when we did the Prabhupada marathon in December, we called a lot of people, and we were able to, we were explaining them. We were going by a script, and it doesn't have to be a script, because a lot of times devotees naturally able to connect with someone, and you don't have to read a script, because sometimes you can be just natural, and when you're talking to people, and share your realizations. So if there is a specific verse in Bhagavad Gita that you really like or you can relate to, you can share that, because whenever we share something which is deeply inside us, in our heart, we really like, it comes out in a way that can connect with that other person very easily. So always try to keep things simple and try to connect with people. And when things open up, then there are ways to be at every event. I think events are now happening. I can see that even here, there is now, we are going to participate in the Independence Day event. There are a lot of events where a lot of Indians come, but there are also events where there are a lot of Western audiences there. So make sure you're covering both avenues, because we want to make sure that we can have Srila Prabhupada books go out to everyone. Another avenue is, we just recently started doing Harinam outside Patel Brothers. So Patel, I'm not sure if there are other Indian stores that you can approach to and say, can we, if there are big chain Indian stores, you can say, can we come out? So one thing I have experienced is sometimes we hesitate to ask, but if we just ask once, you can see that more doors will open up. So like Patel Brothers is, for example, is one way to look at it. Like you just go to the Indian grocery store owner, whoever that is, and if it's a chain, you ask them, we are from the temple, and there is a difficult situation going on in India, and to help the people, we want to do some prayers, right? And to do some prayers, and we also have some books like Bhagavad Gita and others. So can you allow us to come out on a Saturday evening for a few hours, where we can do some prayers and also talk to, and we can invite people. We can put it on a social media, and others people can come to this venue, and they can be participating in the prayers. So most of the time you'll see people say yes to that, because it's a wonderful cause. You're doing some prayers, and in addition to that, you're doing books, and the whole combination of Kirtan and books is just amazing. I know not every place we can do that. Not every place, because sometimes in events, we cannot do Kirtan plus books. But if there is an opportunity, we should do that. There is one event that we went to in Leesburg. And this was like 2 years ago. And we went to that event and we were sitting, we had our table set up. It was out in the open. It was like a kite festival or something. And then we were out in the open and we were sitting, not many people were coming. So, but what we did, we had our kartals, we had our mridanga, and then he said, why don't we just do kirtan? And we started doing kirtan, and more people started coming to our booth just because of kirtan, and they started taking books. So that's one way of really attracting people, because, and also all the book distributors who are there, they just have a wonderful time. The whole atmosphere becomes transcendental when you have a kirtan going on, plus there are books. So yeah, these are some of the ways. Again, it's approaching some really key important people in your area. You can divide, you can have like different sections divided, and few devotees can take certain sections. They can do door to door there. They can do more social media just for that area. Invite people and say, oh, we'll have a tent in this festival. Please come out. You can have some books there. And if you want some books, we also started giving out free meditation kits. So that's another way to attract people, because then not only the meditation kits, you're giving out some books as well. And now one of the areas we are looking into is what is the follow-up after that, right? Because we are giving out books, but what is the follow-up? So that is one area that we are trying to improve on, because there are a lot of local areas, and how we can help people, especially like the Western audience. Is there a way to maybe send them to a platform where they can go and get all the lectures and listen to all the lectures, and on more like stress and Krishna consciousness as well. So there are many ways to do that. And again, we can have more discussion on it and talk about it, but these are some of the ways that we are doing. I don't know if there is any question that anyone has in any of those. I was speaking of a lot of different things, but that comes to my mind here in talking about book distribution.
Hi, thank you so much, Prabhu. That was very inspiring. All the different avenues that you shared. Yes, we do have Kajal Mataji, who is our backbone of book distribution. She's been distributing books left and right everywhere, wherever she goes. And then we have Juhi Mataji, then Hari Prabhu, you already know. He's been doing all this monthly Sankirtan festival. He's leading that. So I'm sure the options that you shared will really be helpful to us. Some of it we are already doing, but we can definitely we see the room to improve. um, Juhi Mataji has raised her hand. Prabhuji, do you have
And I was going to say, you too, you're doing an amazing job, so don't leave yourself out. You and Shresha Mataji.
the camera, Mataji. So, Prabhuji, do you have any time constraints? Would you like to take one more question?
Yes, sure, Prabhu. I can take.
Joy Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful class today. And I had a good fortune to meet you like few weeks back when we came to New Vrindavan along with Kajal Mataji. We met you on the day where you were doing the Narsimha prayers, the Abhishekam and all. We saw that. So Prabhuji, I wanted to just ask one question that sometimes while practicing the devotional services, it tends to happen that there are situations where we tend to act more impulsively or try to show less tolerance. And that time, like the person who is not in Krishna consciousness sometimes can have little negative impression that, this person, even though like trying to practice devotion and all, is like showing such behavior. So what would be your advice to to the person who is practicing this devotion to show more tolerance, or how to increase our power of tolerance, or behave or act more intelligently than impulsively? How we can avoid the situations?
Yeah, thank you, Mataji, for the question. So there is a story, and you may have heard all about that story of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when someone came in the temple where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj was there, and he came from far away and he saw devotees fighting, and then he left and he's like, okay, these devotees, how come they're devotees? They're fighting. So, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he found out that that person came from far away, but he left by seeing devotees fighting. And then he called that person, and then he told him, and I'm shortening the story, he said, this is like a hospital. Everyone is getting treated here, right? So in a hospital, you'll see people who have some kind of an injury going on. And another example is like, we are all trying to take a bath, right? So there is going to be some dirt that we will all have when we are taking a bath. So, and slowly it's going away. So devotees, we cannot be pure devotees from day one. So we all have a gradual process of going through Krishna consciousness, and slowly, and as we are chanting, as we are doing devotional service, slowly the anarthas are going away, and we are becoming pure. So yes, sometimes there could be reactions from devotees, but we learn from that, and then we move on and we continue to do our devotional service. Only through devotional service we can purify ourselves. So no matter, there are people who may be judging us, there may be people who are saying, oh, he's a devotee, how come he acted like that? Then we introspect ourselves and say, yes, I acted in a wrong way. Let me continue my devotional service. Let me be more focused on my devotional service. And by being more focused on my devotional service, I will be able to eventually build some habits with which I will not be able to run into that same situation again. But there is no way we can control someone else. The only thing what we can do is we can focus on attention. We try to do, my Guru Maharaj says that we should try to be attentive while chanting. And if we are attentive while chanting, then all the problems pretty much go away eventually. But it's a gradual process. It's a gradual process. So that is what I have learned from acharyas, and that we are all trying hard in our Krishna consciousness. We are all working hard and doing our devotional service. But the result we have seen from acharyas, that the result is great at the end. There is light at the end. Yes, there is some difficulty initially, but eventually we'll reach our destination with Krishna. And that's a promise Krishna is giving us. So the purity will come as we continue to do our devotional service.
Thank you so much for that insight.
Thank you, Mata.
Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I don't see any hands raised.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to take up too much time, but I received this letter yesterday. So I just wanted to say congratulations for the ISKCON DC, the Bhumi Puja ceremony. They're opening up their new temple and the schedule of events is August 20th. So I just wanted to say congratulations to Divya Ananda Prabhu. You know, this fantastic news. After so many years, they've been trying to open up this new temple. So Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Thank you, Mataji. Their temple opened in 1973, and there's so many devotees who dedicate their life to ISKCON temple in DC. So yeah, we're all excited about that. Yeah.
Hari Bol.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you, Kajal Mataji, for sharing that. So devotees, we can all unmute ourselves and give a big Hari Bol to Divya Anand Prabhu. And yeah, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
And with the Vaishnava
Hare
Pranam,
Krishna.
Panchakalpataru,
Panchakalpataru Vaishya Kripa Sindhu
Patitanam Vaishnavebhyo.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Anand Prabhu
Hare
ki
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please.